Hey home bakers, anyone up for shopping today? Just kidding. Today we're going to set up our home bakeries with the bare bones of what we are going to need. So that may involve some shopping. However, having said that, by no means am I telling you to rush out and make loads of purchases which you may or may not need right away. That said, most of what I'm including today will be needed from day one if you have decided to set up shop. Now, I always recommend that if you have indeed decided to take your home baking hobby to the next level and run it like a business, then do just that. Run it like a business. I would not recommend that you overlap personal resources or domestic resources, be that your finances, be that your social media presence, or even your kitchen tools. As far as possible, keep the two separate. Keep your working space separate if that is possible too, because that's the one way to run your business professionally and have it grow. However, if you're still testing waters and you're not sure if this is the business for you, whether you want to do it in the long run or not, by all means, please use only the resources that you have at hand. Do not make any impulse purchases just yet. So enough said, let's go to the bakery and see. To begin with, we are going to need various sizes of bowls. Whether we mix batters, doughs, whipped cream. These are professional steel bowls with silicone handles and bottoms. These are great as they're really stable, but they are expensive. Normal steel bowls like these work just as well if you place a folded cloth duster under them. Similarly, ceramic or glass are great to work with. I only advise you to stay away from plastic ones. This ceramic ramekin is particularly good for mixing tiny quantities and also doubles up for cooking soufflés. Next are the all-important cake pans. These two come in lots of shapes and sizes and are a great temptation to bakers. However, too many will take up not only too much space to store, but will also make a quick dent in your pocket. I always maintain if you have your round and square pans along with a cupcake tray and a sheet tray, you can make cakes of almost any size and shape. That though is a whole other video. The bread tin is another good addition to your collection as it allows you not only to bake bread loaves, but it also serves very well for tea cakes. These modern silicone mats are absolutely invaluable for making eclairs, cookies, meringues, fondant work and macarons. In fact, to get the same sized macarons, the first one with raised markings is a lifesaver for beginners. This, my friends, is a cake pan strip. Now, a lot of you may not be familiar with this, but if your cakes have domes on top and you have to cut off quite a lot of the cake, which is then wasted, or you have to accommodate it in the middle layer, these are ideal for you. These have to be wet and wrapped around the cake pan, which ensures that there is even heating from the outside and the center of the batter, which makes the cake rise evenly and makes sure that the edges are not lower than the center. These are also quite expensive online, but now you can get Indian varieties which are cheaper, and this is the cheapest option. Surprise! Yep, this is a beauty headband. These wire cooling racks really make all the difference between a soggy bottom in a cake and a dry bottom. Also, these are great for when you're making cookies or if you're making tart cases. They make sure that the bottoms and the tops are just as crisp. Next in line are our measuring cups and our measuring spoons. Though I myself never recommend measuring cups as a measure for your recipes, but lots of recipes are published in cups, and ideally you should measure them in the same cups and then weigh them to make sure that your recipe is absolutely perfect, because cup measures vary from Britain to America to Australia. That's why I don't think they are a reliable measure. My preference and recommendation is always a weighing scale. Whether you want a battery operated version or a corded version, that is up to you, but these are far more accurate, and also they allow you to make the conversions right in the settings, whether it is from ml to grams or to ounces. Spatulas are another absolute essential. In fact, sometimes I wonder, before the invention of silicone, how did we ever bake? But we did with wooden spoons. But in any case, these are more premium quality ones which have no joints in them, but they do have a steel center, so you can't really use them in the microwave. The other variety has a detachable plastic center, and the downside of that is that to keep them clean, you have to take them apart and then clean them. Also, a mention for the silicone brush, because these are so good where you want to create textures and hide any imperfections in cake finishes. Needless to say, these are also great for basting and putting any coverings that you want to put on top of goods that you're going to bake in the oven. The steel ones, you do need a small set which has offset and flat and a pointed one. Now these are very, very useful for small size cakes up to say 6 to 8 inches. But for the larger cakes, you definitely need the larger spatulas. A flat one and an offset one is more than enough to begin with. I would like to mention that I have gone to the trouble of hunting the most popular online site for purchases, and I've looked for the best deals that you can get for most of the products that I'm recommending today. You can have a look at them in the description box and buy them from there if you like. Cake scrapers come in many a rendition. Cake scrapers are what help us give the final finish and look to any cake, whether it is cream, whether it is butter, whether it is any kind of cake. So you can get these in plastic, you can get these in metal, you can get these with different kinds of teeth cut out in them to make patterns on the sides and the tops of cakes. But the ones that I prefer are a metal one, like this one. You can also get them for tall cakes in taller versions. These are flexible acetate ones, which are thicker than the acetate sheets we can get at the stationers, but they're still flexible enough to make any curved cakes, be those football cakes or be those matki cakes or just cake carving in general. As a home baker, the turntable is one of your best friends. Now you can buy a metal one, or you can buy a glass one, or you can buy a plastic one. The metal ones, because of their weight, are the most sturdy, and also they are the most stable when they are rotating. That means that we get the best finishes in the easiest possible way on those. However, these are expensive, so as a beginner, if you wish to buy a plastic one to start with, you can buy that, and it's really cheap and even to discard at a later date. Along with these turntables, one of the most important things that I recommend is a little piece of silicone. Now this can be the kind that you put in your car dashboard, or the kind that I am using, which is specifically used as a trivet. These ensure that our cakes do not slip and slide at all on the turntable when we are finishing them. There are lots of people online who will tell you to use wet cloth or paper and stuff under it. I do not recommend that, because that actually can damage your cake board from the underside. Now, if you think that this list is going to be handy to you as a home baker in your business, then hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, because I'm going to be giving you a whole lot more content which is going to be so useful for you. Here are a little bunch of things that are absolute essentials and are going to help you with making your cakes. You will need small and large bread knives, which are going to help you slice the layers. There are also going to be small knives that you're going to need to cut anything else, as in fillings, etc. You could also use a cake leveler, which is very useful if you have large cakes to make, or even the humble cotton thread. Scissors are really handy to cut out various things that you might need, things like corners of piping bags or baking parchment into the shape of the pans that you're lining it with. Similarly, pastry cutters and pizza cutters come in use when you need to make straight lines and you don't want them to drag, whether it is in shut crust pastry or puff pastry or croissant dough or even fondant. And finally, a chocolate scraper, which helps you in making various kinds of chocolate garnishes or even just simple chocolate curls that you might want to sprinkle on top of maybe your Black Forest or your White Forest cake. Various sizes of sieves not only help us keeping adulterants out of our ingredients, they also help in aerating our flours. And in addition to that, if we want to dredge something like the top of a tiramisu with cocoa powder, they are very useful. The scoop's a handy little tool which helps in portioning out either cookie dough or even batter for cupcakes so that you get an even product right through. Forceps can help with dealing with anything which is delicate like gold flakes or little beads, or even just pulling out something. Another mainstay of baking are whisks. Now, whisks comes in a lot of varieties and they are primarily for aerating batters and mixing up batters. Certain kinds of whisks will incorporate more air into your batter or into your egg white or your cream, whereas others are more suitable for mixing and blending and not incorporating too much air. Moving on to the heavyweights in the bakery. To start with, we've got here the basic electric whisk, which has the whipping attachment as well as the kneading attachment. You can get the same handheld electric beaters with a stand as well. So technically these are stand mixers and their bowls do rotate, which help in a hands-free operation. But usually they are not very powerful. The important thing to keep in mind is that when you are purchasing one for a baking business, ensure that you buy one which is at least 350 watts upwards as its motor power. When choosing a heavyweight stand mixer to purchase, I always recommend that try and buy the highest possible motor power that your budget allows. Having said that, I would never recommend that you buy anything less than 1000 to 1100 watts. Also, you might want to consider certain attachments that come with some of the models, like slicers and mincers and even mixie jars, because they are a large piece of equipment and they do take up counter space, and you may not want to have too many pieces of equipment starting from 3 liters going up to 8 liters on tabletop version. So they have a detachable bowl and you can get multiple bowls for some of the models. They have an arm which you can swivel up and down, and you have 3 attachments that come with it, and you have to attach these to the bottom of the arm, which rotates and does the operations. The 3 attachments, i.e. the balloon whisk, is usually used for beating egg whites, making meringues, making marshmallows, whipping up cream, and so on and so forth. The second one, which is a dough hook and looks like a spiral, is used primarily for kneading breads. And the third one, which at one time used to be called the K-beater because the Kenwood company brought that design out, but now is just called the paddle attachment, is again used for making certain kinds of batters where you don't want to incorporate air, make cookie doughs and stuff like that. These are usually also fitted with a splash guard so that you don't have clouds or splashes of any liquid or flour, etc. when you are adding it to the batter which is already being processed in the bowl. Rolling pins come in a variety of materials, sizes and designs, and are useful for rolling out pastry dough, fondant, bashing cookies to crumbs, and even embossing fondant with patterns. When it comes to cake decorating tools, there is an endless list, but piping nozzles, bags and couplers are the absolute essential. Here is a triple bag design with coupler which allows you to pipe a design in 3 colors of cream simultaneously. Disposable icing bags are handy and hygienic and also fairly cost effective, and you can get them in different sizes. The silicone icing bags are really handy for thicker, heavier batters like choux paste and macaron batters. Flour, nails and scissors make piping and placing cream and buttercream flowers a child's play on iced cakes. Couplers, which come in primarily 3 sizes, are a great time and money saving tool when your cake design has a number of colors or patterns. Simply keep changing the nozzles attached to the coupler in a bag, and you can work with a small quantity of cream to make different patterns or with different colors to make different patterns. Though not essential, tall cups and tumblers can serve as icing bag filling assistants when you're working alone, ensuring neatly filled bags with no greasy outsides to make your hands slip when you're piping intricate designs. Needless to say that bakers can seldom resist a new piping nozzle, be it a tiny one for writing messages, a fancy macaron extruding one, or a funky Russian nozzle. But in all honesty, 99% of cake designs can be accomplished with just a few. You can watch the videos linked on screen to find out how. Last but not the least, protecting your hands from hot surfaces is important. And you can use silicone gloves lined with cotton, and the plain old cotton padded mitt. They all work, though to different degrees, of course. Protecting your customers from germs and rogue hair or dandruff is equally important, if not more. I always recommend latex gloves, head cover, and clean dusters to be used whenever handling customer orders. You must be wondering, what are we going to bake in? Has she forgotten about the oven altogether? No, I have not forgotten about ovens, and you cannot bake without one or run your business without one. However, the oven is going to be one of your largest capital investments, and there are lots of nuances to be considered before you make that investment. You have to consider the size, you have to consider the wattage, you have to consider what fuel it works on, you have to consider how many bakes you can make in it in one go, how much power consumption, so on and so forth. So, for that reason, I'm going to make a totally separate video so that I can give you all the considerations that you need to take in before you make that purchase. So do watch that video, and I'll see you in the next one. Have fun.